Hey there, how you doing? This is Chris, C2 Local. Welcome to the pod. In this episode, we're going to have a quick question. Okay, let's try that again. Hey, we're going to have a conversation about paid ads. And the reason why I want to talk about paid ads is not because I knock these out on a regular basis. As a matter of fact, I usually don't. And the reason I don't is because the folks that I work with, paid ads is generally a non-starter. For some it is, but for the majority of people I work with, the numbers just don't add up. And what I want to do in this episode is kind of have the conversation I normally have with the people I'm talking to who say, hey, can I do ads? And I can say, yes, you can do ads, but let's make sure they're profitable for you. Okay, so we're going to walk through that conversation. I'm going to give you what you need to understand to decide whether or not paid ads is for you. And I don't have a dog in the hunt, not pro ads, not anti-ads, just make it make sense. Okay, so here's the two things that you really need to wrap your head around. There's a thing called the customer acquisition cost and the other thing called the lifetime value of a customer. Now, the lifetime value of a customer is something that's real easy to kind of just let sit over there, but we're going to bring it into the light because it's important. Because if you're going to decide on ads, you have to have real numbers to work with. And this lifetime value, I guarantee you're going to look at me and say, I'm not sure if I can figure that out. So let me tell you what that means. Lifetime value means the number of turns that you can expect from the average number of turns from a customer. If a new person shows up and you've got, new customer, they're sitting in the chair, you're rocking, the average number of times, given how you do what you do and all the things that go into you and your business, the average number of times you can expect that customer to get back in that chair. Okay? So let's say, just for our example, that a new person comes to the door, you can feel pretty solid that they're going to come back at least 5 more times. So 6 visits total. All right. Now, for our example, we're going to say that you are a massage therapist and you charge $100 an hour. So those 6 visits is actually $600. So every new person through the door is 600 bones in your pocket. Nice. Now, let's go over the customer acquisition cost. Customer acquisition cost is what did it take to get that person through the door the first time? Because it's a different process to get them come back, but to get them the first time to go from don't know you to, hey, let's sit down, that's the process. And in this example, we're talking about paid ads. But first, I need you to understand, paid ads does not equal new business. Paid ads is just instant visibility. That's all it is. Your stuff has got to be nice to take advantage of paid ads. Like, for instance, if you got a busted website, looks just like trash, and you pay for ads to people to come to your website, that means that you pay people to come to your website and go, ugh, no. But if your website is nice, it's got conversion elements on it, looks nice and professional, it looks like what they're looking for, okay, now you're in the fight. Let's just say that's the conversion part. So there's more to it than just that, but just understand paid ads don't equal new customers. Paid ads get you in the conversation, or at least get you to have them looking at you. So then you can start turning that visibility into new customers. Now, to make this example easy to wrap your head around numbers wise, we're going to kind of fuzzy it up a little bit. And what I mean by that is we're only going to consider the ad cost in your customer acquisition costs, because otherwise there's really no way for me to understand, because I don't know what you've got going on in your website. I don't know if you do online booking. I don't know if you're only on phone calls. I don't know what you do to get folks through the door other than, standing outside your shop and saying, come on in. I don't know what you do. So we're going to say, just to make this illustration make sense, your customer acquisition cost is the cost of your ad spend. Okay, so if we use the numbers we're talking about right now, and let's say that you wanted to do a $10 a day ad spend on Facebook or Google or something like that. So $10 a day in 1 month, you're spending $300. You spent $300, you got 12 people to call. 12 people called, turned into 6 new customers. Okay, so let's see, you got a 50% conversion rate. So however you do what you do, because I'm backtracking a little bit, if you have online booking and your ad takes them to your online booking page, or it takes them whatever, however many people that you got to take an action, and then the number of people who took an action that turned into a customer, that's your conversion rate. So in this case, your ad got 12 people to call you, and you were able to turn 12 phone calls into new customers, 50% conversion rate. Okay, so $300 got 6 new people through the door. That's $600 times an average ticket of $100 times an average turn of 6 turns. So you spent $300, and in this example, you made $3,600. That math makes math. That math is math in there. And that's where you have to step back and go, okay, in that illustration of math is mathing doesn't work in my situation, because you may not be pulling down $100 a ticket. You may not have 6 turns. All of those things matter. And you have to understand those before you can say, I want to run ads. Now, you can just run ads just because you're curious. I mean, at the end of the day, at the end of the year, you file taxes and you can put it on there. But if you're really trying to build business, there's a couple of things that you need to understand. One, an ad is just a thing that gets visibility, but what happens once they do that? You can improve your ad. Oh, and one other thing about improving your ad, talking about ads. Ads aren't really like buying other things. And what I mean by that, other things have a set price. So if you say you want to do an ad, you want to spend $300, you think you're going to get the same thing this month. That $300 gets you that month, that's got you $300 a month after that. That's not how it works. Ads tend to be auction houses, which means that you're bidding for the same locations, the same limited locations as your competition. So if you spend $10 a day, and your competition spends $11 a day, their ads are going to be placed in a much more advantageous place than yours. So you have to actually say, well, how much am I willing to spend? That's why that cost, the acquisition cost could go up. And then how good are you at getting them to say, ooh, I like what you got going on there. Let me wander my biscuits through the door. If you get good at that, depending on how you got your website, your online presence set up, your phone presence, all that, if you get good at that and suddenly you're really in the 50% percentile, if you're at 50%, you're good. But in reality, chances are you may not be at 50% depending on what you're doing. But you can fix all of those numbers. Also, turns. I said the average turn is 6 times. That's just for my example. What happens if you're nice like that and your average turn is 8 turns? So instead of the average cost of lifetime value of customer being 600 bones, the average lifetime value is 800 bones. So you see how all of those things go into play for you to determine whether or not ads make sense for you. You doing microblading, $140 a pop, or you doing, the average cut for small children, $30 a pop. All those things go into play. It's easy to figure out if you know those numbers. And that's what you need to pay attention to if you're going to go the ads route. If your conversion is nice like that, it might be worth you a while. A lot of people do a little mix. They do a little bit of ads, plus they do the long-term version that I'm a fan of. There's all kinds of places to do this stuff, but it still starts with knowledge. It still comes from understanding how this stuff works. So what I want you to do, the takeaway I want you to have is that ads are not bad. It's just that they have to make sense for your situation. And your situation is not a static thing. You can improve it on both ends, the acquiring and the holding on to them. So there you have it. So there's a lot there. If you're kind of curious about it, if you want to sit there and, kick the willy bobo on your particular situation, you know how to get a hold of me, 702-582-6708. That's my voicemail line, or support@c2local.io. Shoot me a question. Or if you just want to chat, c2local.io/discovery, and we'll chop it up because we're nice like that. We can make that happen. Oh, and before I get out of here, I got my little plug, and my plug is for trying to make sure that all the folks, all of my peeps, whether real or imagined, understand the fundamentals, the underpinning on how this stuff actually all works. If you're trying to understand what your conversion rate is and how to fix it, if you're trying to really understand visibility, all that stuff is in there. It's in the blueprint. And to get your hands on it, just go to c2local.io/blueprint, hit my download page, give me a couple of digits, boom, it's yours. And then you got good reading. That right there is worth the price of admission. Okay, we're going to cut it off there for today because you know how I do. I can get long-winded and talk as long as you'll listen, but we're nice like that, so I'm not going to abuse your attention. All right, so I'll hit you up next week because we're going to do this on a weekly basis. Let's see, let's call it 8 o'clock on a Monday. We'll drop that every week on a Monday, hit you with something new, another way of looking at something that you need to understand, because if you're smart about it, you're much better off. And I'd rather you know what you're doing as opposed to hoping that everything turns out for the best, because hope is not a method. All right, I'm out of here. I'll see you next time. Deuces.